Hello, my name is Stephanie Chung, and today I'm going to be talking about selling hope, but not through soda. In this presentation, I will be looking at two academic texts. The first is Why We Shop, a chapter in Daniel Miller's Consumption and Its Consequences, and the second is from the Oxford Handbook of Material Culture Studies, a chapter by Peter Pells titled Magical Things on Fetishes, Commodities, and Computers. And I will apply these two texts to help explain why that Pepsi commercial was so tone deaf. Why We Shop is about Miller's research about the shopping habits of households in northern London. Miller writes that shopping helps resolve discrepancies between the normative and the actual, which comes from his peanut butter theory. So Miller writes that a person is both what they are, the actual, and what we want them to be, the normative image of what a person is, simultaneously. For example, a mother might think of the normative idea of a child as a healthy eater, but realizes that her child, the actual child in front of her, is not a healthy eater. So, she will buy peanut butter to resolve that discrepancy. Peanut butter is a healthy food and one her picky child actually likes. By buying the peanut butter for her child, she pushes him a little bit closer to the normative and a little further away from his actuality of not being a healthy eater. Miller also talks about sacrifice, love through shopping, the time, energy, and money that goes into shopping, to buy objects for the family that are then consumed on the altar of the household, of the table, of the use. And Miller writes that shopping is fundamentally a way to understand love in a household, love in a family. Peter Pells, on the other hand, talks about magical things. He writes that the cosmetic manufacturers are no longer selling lanolin, they are selling hope. We no longer buy oranges, we buy vitality. Pells takes a different approach. He doesn't understand why anthropologists for so long have drawn a divide between the magic of, primitive societies believing in their fetishes and the science of, modern technology and modern societies. He says that our modern scientific societies do have magic in them, and he looks at advertising for the magic of commodities. Advertisements are trying to do what the fetish does, turn an ordinary object into something magical by suggesting it can do something to you. An object is not magical in and of itself, it's magical because of its interaction with the human being. Pells says that people don't even desire the object itself, but whatever that object has the potential to do for them. Now, if we look at this Tropicana ad, we can see both Mills and Pells in here. Miller and Pells. We see that, this orange juice is, it's pure, it's 100% orange, it's natural. It's resolving the gap between what you are, maybe you think, I don't get that much vitamins, I eat a lot of processed foods, what you want to be, someone who's healthy, who eats organic foods. And buying this orange juice will make you a more pure and natural person. As for Pells, we see that, this orange juice squeeze, it's hugs, it'll bring your family together, it'll make your children hug each other. This orange juice is like magic. It'll make us feel healthier, it'll make us smile more, it'll bring our family closer. And then you want it not just for the taste of the orange juice, but for the image it evokes in your mind of a happy family, being close and being healthy. So this brings us to how these quotes relate to each other. We have shopping resolving discrepancies between the normative and the actual, and companies selling hope or selling vitality instead of just their, plain, boring product. In the capitalistic economic model, humans have unlimited wants but limited resources, and we are constantly striving to satisfy our wants with those limited resources. We dream of purchasing something that is larger than merely the sum of its resources, something that will really change our lives. If we can only choose one brand of orange juice, do we want the one in the boring container, or do we want the one that, tells us it's going to be pure and natural and vital, and it'll make us healthier than we already are? Both quotes examine why a shopper buys a product. It's not to have the material object in and of itself. It's hope for a change of some sort. It's more mental, it's more personal, it's desiring to be different. So what does this have to do with Pepsi? What went wrong for Pepsi? The Pepsi ad shows a protest, a very generic protest, walking through a very generic street. And Kendall Jenner stops her modeling shoot and joins the protest at the back of a very handsome Asian boy. And they join the protest, and they have Pepsi everywhere, and Kendall grabs a Pepsi, and the crowd goes quiet as she walks up to the police officer and she hands him her Pepsi, and he takes it. And then the crowd goes wild. Oh my gosh, the police officers finally joined the conversation. Look at us, we've united for a message of peace. And then the commercial flopped. They had to pull it because people were so outraged. Pepsi, according to their spokesperson, was trying to project a global message of unity, peace, and understanding. But the fiction was too large. I would argue, in terms of Miller, that there's too much of a gap between the normative and the actual, or what Pepsi viewed as normative and the actual. Here in this image, we see on the right the actuality. We see a Black Lives Matter protester who, minutes after this photograph was taken, was assaulted, knocked down, arrested for her actions in the protest. This is the actuality. This is the day-to-day lives of people. And on the other side, we see the normative, what Pepsi views as normative. Gorgeous white model handing a police officer a Pepsi and making him join the conversation, and everyone being really excited and together and unified. All the divisions are surmountable. And I think that what was meant to show unity actually exposed a gap between the people making the commercial and the people they were trying to depict. And the difference was so stark it was laughable. People were telling Pepsi, you don't understand our lives. You don't understand what it's like to have to protest, to be worried about our children at the hands of police brutality. And so the selling unity idea that Pepsi was trying to do didn't ring true. Instead, it seemed like what Pepsi was selling wasn't unity, but was this idealized, very white vision of a perfect global unified world that the diverse millennial audience they were trying to appeal to didn't approve of. They thought the commercial was insincere. What was Pepsi protesting? All the signs just had peace on them. It did not reflect a nuanced understanding of race and diversity in America. The people of color in the video were props to Kendall Jenner. She takes off her blonde wig, she shoves it at her black stylist. The handsome Asian male who's an artist who plays the cello, he's only there to beckon to Kendall Jenner and draw her into the protest. The hijabi photographer who's there is only there to snap the photograph of that moment when Kendall hands the police officer a Pepsi. And then we have Kendall herself, a wealthy white woman who's the end to what was reminiscent of a Black Lives Matter protest. She's the person who ends it all. Look how cool she is. Look, she's fist bumping with a random guy with cornrows. It seems disingenuous for Pepsi to say live for now when people are protesting in the streets because police brutality makes it hard for people of color to stay alive when confronting the police. I feel like there are some ethical problems with this commercial. Again, Kendall Jenner being the end to the parade, and her handing the police officer the Pepsi and telling him to join the conversation. That is very reminiscent of the white savior complex. It plays on the idea that people of color are just too angry, and if they would calm down and stop protesting, and have a conversation about this instead of getting mad or angry or violent, change would actually happen. And that's a very dangerous idea to put forward. Again, people were upset about Pepsi using protests to sell soda. Pepsi's market research showed that millennials like purchasing from socially conscious brands, so they wanted to appear socially conscious without having the guts to put their money where their mouth is. And donating to a cause for social awareness without actually depicting a real protest, a very generic protest with peace signs everywhere, didn't actually have a message. And millennials don't like things that don't have a message because then it just feels fake. Pepsi was saying, we're not selling Pepsi, we're selling unity. But instead, they should have tried something like, we're not just selling Pepsi, by buying Pepsi, you are supporting a socially conscious company. By buying Pepsi, you're supporting Black Lives Matter. And that would have made people a lot more willing to buy into this fiction of handing the police officer a Pepsi, especially if they had used a non-white model or actress to do this. And finally, people were upset because it was using the struggle of real people for capitalistic gain. The Pepsi is not magic. The Pepsi cannot be used by, activists and protesters to defend themselves from police brutality. That struggle is something that the Pepsi corporate didn't understand. People just see Pepsi as wanting the money and not recognizing the hardships and the realities of life for other people. And that didn't ring true to them. So when Pepsi tried selling hope, they didn't quite manage it because they didn't understand the people they were trying to sell to. Thank you so much for watching.